It sounds like you want a approximately 1,500-word emotional short film-style story based on that hook. Here's a complete version you can use for a post, narration, or script. Hashtag kindness story, hashtag emotional short film, hashtag life lessons. The beggar girl said, "Don't eat that." Her voice was thin, shaky, and almost lost in the noise of the busy street. The billionaire paused. People rarely spoke to him like that. Most people either bowed politely or kept their distance. But this voice carried something unusual: urgency, fear, and honesty. He slowly turned around. Standing a few feet away was a small girl, no older than 10. Her clothes were worn and dusty, her hair messy from days without proper care. In her hands she held a small tin cup with a few coins rattling inside. She was clearly a beggar. The man looked down at the sandwich he had just bought from a roadside stall. "Why?" he asked calmly. The girl stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I saw the man drop it," she whispered. The billionaire frowned. "Drop it where?" She pointed toward the back of the food cart. "Near the trash." It fell on the ground. Then he picked it up and wrapped it again. The billionaire's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked back at the vendor, who was busy serving other customers and pretending not to notice the conversation. Most people would have ignored the girl. After all, what did a beggar know about food hygiene? But something about her expression stopped him. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't trying to sell anything. She was simply worried. "Why would you warn me?" he asked. The girl shrugged softly. "Because you were about to eat it." The billionaire stared at her for a moment. Then slowly, he unwrapped the sandwich. Instead of taking a bite, he examined it carefully. The bread had a faint smear of dirt on one side. It was small, something most people would never notice. But it was there. He quietly wrapped it back up. The girl watched him nervously. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "Maybe I was wrong." "No," he replied gently. "You weren't." He walked back to the vendor and placed the sandwich on the counter. "You dropped this," he said calmly. The vendor froze. "What?" "No, sir." The billionaire didn't argue. He simply walked away. The little girl was still standing there, uncertain whether she had done something good, or something that might get her in trouble. When the billionaire returned, he noticed she had stepped back toward the sidewalk. "Wait," he said. She stopped. "Yes, sir. What's your name?" "Amina." "How long have you been begging here, Amina?" She hesitated before answering. "About 2 years." "Where are your parents?" Her eyes dropped to the ground. "My mother is sick," she said quietly. "She can't work anymore." "And your father?" "He left." The billionaire felt something tighten in his chest. He had spent most of his life in boardrooms, signing contracts worth millions, building towers of glass and steel across cities. Yet this small conversation on a dusty street felt heavier than any business deal he had ever made. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. Amina shook her head. He looked around and spotted a small restaurant across the road. "Come with me," he said. Her eyes widened. "No, sir, I'm not allowed inside places like that." "Today you are." He walked ahead. After a moment, she followed. Inside the restaurant, the staff immediately recognized the billionaire. They rushed to greet him respectfully. But the moment they saw the little beggar girl behind him, confusion spread across their faces. The billionaire noticed. "2 meals," he said firmly. They nodded. Amina sat quietly at the edge of the chair, as if afraid someone might ask her to leave. When the food arrived, she stared at it for several seconds before touching it. "Go ahead," he said. Slowly, she began to eat. At first carefully, then quickly, then hungrily. The billionaire watched silently. This meal probably cost less than the coffee he drank every morning. But to her, it was everything. After she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her sleeve. "Thank you," she said softly. He leaned forward slightly. "Why didn't you keep quiet earlier?" he asked. "What do you mean? You could have let me eat that sandwich. Then maybe I would have given you money afterward." She thought about it. Then she shook her head. "My mother says being hungry is hard," she replied. "But being dishonest is worse." The words hit him like a sudden gust of wind. For a moment, he said nothing. He had built his empire through competition, risk, and negotiation. Honesty existed in his world too, but it often came wrapped in contracts and legal language. Yet this child had protected a stranger, without expecting anything in return. "What does your mother do?" he asked. "She used to sew clothes," Amina said. "Used to. She's very sick now." "Where do you live?" She described a small neighborhood on the edge of the city. A place most wealthy people had never seen. The billionaire nodded slowly. "Would you take me there?" Her eyes widened again. To my house. Yes. She hesitated. Our house is very small. That's okay. After paying the bill, they stepped outside. Amina led the way through narrow streets and crowded alleys until they reached a tiny one-room home made from old bricks and patched metal sheets. Inside, a woman lay on a thin mattress. She coughed weakly as they entered. Ami, Amina said gently. Her mother turned her head slowly. When she saw the well-dressed stranger standing beside her daughter, panic flashed across her face. I'm sorry, she said quickly. If Amina bothered you, she didn't, the billionaire interrupted softly. She helped me. The woman looked confused. Amina explained what had happened. When she finished, her mother sighed. You shouldn't trouble important people, she told her daughter. The billionaire smiled slightly. Sometimes important people need help too. He looked around the small room. There was barely any furniture. A few cooking utensils, a broken chair, and a sewing machine in the corner covered in dust. You used to sew? He asked. The woman nodded. I was good at it once. Why did you stop? Medicine is expensive, she said quietly. And when you were sick, customers stopped coming. The billionaire stood there thinking for a long moment. Then he walked over to the old sewing machine. He ran his hand gently across it. What if you could work again? He asked. She gave a weak smile. That would be a miracle. The billionaire turned toward Amina. Your mother taught you to be honest, he said. She nodded. Yes. Well, he continued, today that honesty saved me from eating food off the ground. Amina looked embarrassed. It was nothing. No, he said softly. It was everything. The next few days changed their lives. The woman received proper medical treatment. The old sewing machine was replaced with a new one. Then another. Then a small workshop opened. Soon several women from the neighborhood were working there. Stitching clothes, earning money, supporting their families. Months later, Amina stood outside the new shop sign. It read, Amina's Honest Threads. The billionaire visited occasionally, but he never asked for recognition. Whenever reporters asked why he had invested in such a small project, he gave a simple answer. Because once, he said, a hungry little girl chose honesty over money. And that reminded me what real wealth looks like. If you'd like, I can also turn this into a YouTube narration script. Create a short viral version, 300 to 500 words. Add dramatic dialogue and scene directions for a short film clapperboard 1500 WAD.